All right. So I just want to talk about something that, let's see, a couple of days ago, after I got through going to the gym, I went to grab a little late night snack, and I ran into my buddy. I ain't gonna say his name, but I ran into my buddy, and so we talked for about 20 minutes. He did have a little bit to drink. I guess the situation had him frustrated, but basically, uh, when we started talking, him, his girl, and her daughter went to a friend's house and they was playing spades. So the kids was in one place and the adults in another room. So I guess she was ready to go. But he was like, let's just finish up this hand and then we'll go ahead and leave. But I guess the daughter was kind of like, I'm ready to go now. We leaving now. I'm ready to go. Mom, let's go. So the mother was like, let's go. She's ready to go. So let's go. So it was no more, let's finish up this hand. It was just, let's go. Which brings me to the topic, as you can see, that is kind of scrolling. Yeah, I'm going wrong. Yeah, scrolling across the screen. But anyway, if you're dating someone with kids, how much? Well, here's the problem. Here's the thing. Let me take it back. Let me rewind back a little bit. When you're dating somebody with kids, it really depends on the relationship. Now, I have dated women with kids, and sometimes I saw red flags, and there are certain things that I consider to be a huge red flag. Like for me, if a woman has a son and she says her son is the man of the house, and she's instilled that in her son, that he is the man of the house right now at the age of 5, 7, 11, 15. Now, this kid is not paying any bills, but she's told him he's the man of the house. She's put him in that position. As a man coming in, and I'm talking about good men. I'm not talking about bad men. So don't get into the whole, well, if men did what they're supposed to do, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if you got a good guy who comes into your life, but you have told your child they are the man of the house, you're going to run into problems because that child is sort of putting himself in the place of a grown man who's paying bills. So he's going to think that that man should be, subordinate to him, and he's going to have a mentality that, the mom is basically putting him in the position of a husband or a boyfriend. So when that happens, you got a grown man clashing with a child over who's a man. Who's the man? Who's the man in the house? Because some women, now I'm not talking about all women, some women do treat their young sons that they're trying to raise up like they are grown men. And they talk to them like they're grown men. But when that child runs into a real grown man is not going to stand for that. No matter how much he might love you or think you could be a good option, a good wife, a good girlfriend, if he's coming home to you, but he's got to battle your son for who sits on the couch or who sits at what part of the table, or if your son has say so over him, because anytime your child says something, you're jumping up to do what your child says, that man is not going to stay for that. Now, on the same token, that can also apply for a woman, because a woman can be in a relationship, okay? She can be in a relationship with a guy who has a child. And if that guy is putting that child above her to where whatever the child says is right, whatever the child says to do, that's what you're going to do. That woman is like, no, I'm not going to play second fiddle to a teenager or elementary, age child. But you do have that in some cases to where you have single parents who have just grown attached and they feel like my child's love is mine. And it could be the fact that they want their child to love them more than their ex or their biological parent. So they figured a way to do that is to give that child what they want. Now, like I said, I've dated women with kids. I've dated a woman who said her child was the man of the house. As you can tell by what I just said, it did not work. Okay? It did not work. But I've also dated a woman who had a daughter. And in first meeting her daughter, she seemed nice, but when I got to know, I'm like, dang, she does nothing her mother says. Her mother gives her everything. She has an attitude, and she doesn't know how to talk to adults. And it's like, cause we had dated for a while. So when I said, okay, we went to meet my family, I told her, because they were from Trinidad. I told her, I said, listen, I said, down south, because I'm from Georgia. I'm like, from Georgia, when kids, because her daughter was 11 years old, I said, just keep in mind, my family is very, down south tradition. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yes, ma'am, no, no's, huh? What? You don't say that to the adults, especially the grandparents. For those of y'all, Black families down south, y'all know what I'm talking about. So when we go down there and my mom asked her something, what? Huh? No. And it was just this like, and I could see my family's face just looking like, somebody gonna check this child because she about to get checked. So needless to say, the conversation back up the road was long, too long. But the thing about it is, you got to be mindful of that when you're dating somebody and they have kids. And like the two scenarios I gave you, like the one, she didn't think her daughter was bad. Her daughter, she told her daughter to wash dishes. She didn't do it. Clean her room. She didn't do it. Anything she did, she half did it. But she was given everything. Anything she wanted, she was given. She wanted art classes. Here you go. She wanted to do this. Here you go. She wanted this. Here you go. She was just giving it. Meals were decided based on what she wanted. It don't matter what anybody else wanted. Whatever her daughter wanted, that's what she fixed. And it just caused a problem. Especially when it's like, okay, well, y'all eat that. I'll fix my own food. I can cook. You know what I'm saying? I can do for myself. But when you get into relationships where you're dating somebody with kids and you run into those circumstances, it's tough because you want to be with that person because you see the good in that person. But when that person can't see what's negatively affecting the relationship because they don't want to discipline the child or they don't want the child to see them as being a parent because they want to be more liked and be more like the cool parent, the friend, the aunt, the uncle, then, you start having issues. Like the lady I told you had the little girl. The funny thing was I said, well, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just too strict. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's just me. And then all of a sudden she had some of her friends come up from Trinidad and they came and stayed at the house. And I'm telling you this, after a day and a half of being there, okay, she went to work. So I stayed there and hung out with them. They pulled me aside and say, why are you washing the dishes? Why isn't she washing the dishes? Why doesn't she clean her room? What is wrong with her? When you call her, she don't answer. I mean, is she always like this? And I said, listen, that is how she is. I said, now, when you say something to her, it's a little bit of an attitude. She gets rude. I said, it's like the way she talks. I said, I thought it was just a part of Trinidad culture that I did not understand. And I was too strict. They made it clear to me that her child did not represent Trinidad culture. They made it clear to me that Trinidad kids are raised with respect and courtesy for their elders. So I told them about when we went home, when I took her to meet my family, and how she was like, no, and all this type of stuff. What? To the adults in my family. And they was like, no, that's not how Trinidad kids talk. We don't treat our elders like that. We do respect, and we have respect. So now the light bulb is like, oh, see, I understand every culture has some little different things. So when they told me like, oh, that's not Trinidad culture, that's just a badass child, I like, okay, cosign. And here's the thing, man, when you're dating somebody that has a child, it's difficult. It's really difficult to interject your thoughts or opinions, especially if that parent is what's called a helicopter parent or a very protective parent. Sometimes they may feel like that child has been without because they're so young and the other parent is not there. You may have a father who's very protective of his child, and when the mother says something, he gets defensive. And some parents are like, listen, you with me, if my child does something, you tell me, I'll discipline my child. That's sort of a red flag. Now, I'm not saying that you got permission to hit a child, but you should have permission to tell a child, listen, don't break that. Don't do that. That's dangerous. Don't light a fire over there. You should have permission to tell a child not to do something that can harm them or harm somebody else, or something that's morally or ethically wrong. You should have the right to do something if you're in a relationship with somebody. True, when I was coming up, when you walk down the street, if you was doing something wrong, somebody would say something to you, and you go home and try to tell your mom or daddy, they done already called. So you might get a whooping down the street, then get a whooping when you get back home. But the thing about it is, you have to be kind of, mindful of that. And it's sort of like a double-edged sword, because you want to be a family. You want to feel like you can help with the nurturing and educating of that child, that you can be a model for that child. If you have a single mother who has a daughter, you want her to see how a man should be in her life by the way you treat her mother, by her mother being encouraged, being motivated, being supported, being loved. You know what I'm saying? Being respected. And it's the same thing with the father who has a daughter who brings a woman into his life. He wants his daughter, that woman should want his daughter to see how a woman should behave, how she should carry herself, how she should love her husband, respect her husband, motivate her husband. And that whole family dynamic should speak to how a relationship should be, so that child growing up sees what it is to be in a loving, understanding home that knows how to communicate, that knows how to disagree, but communicate. But when you get into relationships to where you have one parent that has the mentality of, listen, you can buy her stuff, you can pay bills, you can buy me stuff, you can bring food in here, you can spend all the money you want, but you will not be a part of the parental process. You got to kind of look at that kind of side-eye, because it's like, so you want me to give financially, but parentally, you don't want me to be a factor in any way. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people can run off a good mate because they don't want to acknowledge the fact that their child has behavior issues. They don't want to see it. They don't want to say anything to the child. Because sometimes you get those kids that's going to be like, well, you know what? I'm going to go stay with my daddy. I'm going to go stay with my mama, and that parent feels hurt. It's like your father's not doing nothing for you. Your mother is not doing nothing for you. And believe me, there are plenty single fathers with kids where the mother is absentee. Okay, so believe that. People just don't like to talk about that. But the thing about it is, it hurts that parent that they're giving this child everything, and then for that child to throw something like that up in their face. So some single parents don't want to cross that bridge. They don't even want to hear that or deal with those issues. So you yourself have to ask yourself, if you're in a relationship, are your eyes really open to the behavior of your child and how it really affects your relationships, how it really affects you? You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times we really do ignore some of the more important factors when it comes to raising a child, when it comes to being a parent, when it comes to bringing someone new into the relationship, how that child acts, how that child behaves. How does your child act when you don't see them? When you have a lot of people saying, when you say, hey, can my child come spend the day with you because I need to go do this? And they're like, I don't know, dog. I don't know. You have to ask yourself, could it be a possibility that my child has behavior issues? You know what I'm saying? Not that they need medication, they just bad. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people don't think about that. A lot of people don't really know or don't really want to address that issue. They don't want to address it. They don't want to cross that bridge. So you have to get yourself in the mindset of really being open with your eyes and your mind to your child, how your child interacts with other people. Oftentimes, you will get stuff from your teacher where your teacher is telling you, where teachers are telling you about your child's behavior in the class, and some people just don't believe it because their child shits gold and walks on clouds, But the fact is, you got to be mindful of that, especially if you're trying to move forward in a relationship, if you're trying to build a relationship with somebody. You have to be mindful of your child's behavior. You know what I'm saying? Just like you scrutinizing that guy or that woman about things they do, you need to be the same way with your child and understanding, is your child a negative influence on your life? Some children get jealous if they feel like the parent brings somebody else in. They feel like that parent is now going to be giving, anything that's theirs to them, So you got to be mindful of that. And you got to have those discussions with your kids if you're single. And, you might want to wait before you bring somebody into the picture and just kind of ease your child into it, instead of just bringing that person in and like, hey, good, you got somebody. So you got to be careful about stuff like that. But anyway, the thing about it is, if you're dating somebody with a child, just as the person who's dating just as the man or woman who has the child needs to be cautious about who they bring into that child's life, you as a single person, you need to be cautious about the people you date who have kids, because they are not all angels. They are not all good, and just like you can always run into somebody who's got ulterior motives that will go against you, have a negative impact on you. So you need to kind of be the same way. Just kind of think about that, be mindful of that, and, be honest and open about what you want and what you're looking for. And just be realistic. If you're dating somebody who has a child, don't just try to get in with the child to get with the parent. Be kind of cautious, man, with that, and just be real about what it is you're looking for, what it is you're trying to do, what it is you're trying to get out of the relationship in general. If you can build a good relationship with the child and the parent, that's the ultimate goal, to where everybody is on one page, one understanding, and nobody's trying to take advantage or get over on the other. You know what I'm saying? Both need to be a positive influence to each other and to the child. Hey, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time.